Good afternoon all. It's turned 4:30, so we'll commence our September Council meeting. And firstly, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we meet on today, the Wiradjuri people, and humbly pay my respects to their elders past and present. Bit of housekeeping. We've got members of the public in the gallery. If asked to evacuate, please exit by the twin doors you walked into the chamber. Turn right and exit to the footpath, and please await further instructions. Phones on silent for everyone, please. Live stream. This meeting is being streamed live and recorded and made publicly available on Council's website, so persons attending or speaking in public forum need to avoid making defamatory statements. On that note, I will inform the gallery that the microphones are pretty sensitive, so we just all need to be aware of that. The next item on the agenda is public forum, and normally I would have a list in front of me that would tell me who those speakers are and where it is, but because our normal person is off work, I can go to this and find it. So the first speaker in public forum is Jared Carlefelt, and he's speaking in relation to item 14.1, which is a motion from the Mayor in regard to annual funding contribution requests from the Southern Sports Academy. So you there, Jared, and you can hear us all well? Yep, okay, thank you, Jared.
I can.
Get 5 minutes to do your presentation, and at the 4-minute mark I'll give you a little wind up to let you know where you're at. And the idea of public forum is that you are to speak to the items that you're registered to speak to. And
yep.
I'll hand it over to you, Jared.
No worries, thank you. And I appreciate the time you've given me to speak here this afternoon. Real quick, Southern Sports Academy, we develop young junior athletes. We're the pathway for them, for the kids in the southern region, typically 14 to 18 years old. The pathway to, I guess, before they hit New South Wales Institute of Sport and then the AIS. This year we had 180 kids in our program, 6 of which were from Hilltops LGA. Nominations have opened for the 2026 program, and Hilltops are strongly represented. I think the numbers in nominations were around 12. Selections haven't been done yet, so I haven't got a final number on how many go through to that program for next year. But numbers are strong from Hilltops. You've seen, or perhaps hopefully you've seen the presentation that I've, the slides that I've sent through. If you haven't, Southern Sports Academy, we've had 60 Australian reps, or over 60. We've had 11 Olympians come from this southern region. Previously, we've requested funding from all the LGAs in our catchment. We have 22 LGAs in our catchment. Previously, since 2016, we've worked on a model of requesting $200 per athlete that each LGA that the athlete comes from. Some LGAs give it, some don't. I've got a table there on, I think it's page 12 on the Hilltops historic contributions. If you scroll a little bit further down, so typically we haven't received much or anything from Hilltops previously, but if you scroll down a little bit further to page 14, there's a table there in regards to where Southern Sports Academy sits in relation to all the other regional academies in New South Wales. We service the most LGAs. We've got 22 LGAs in our catchment, but we receive the least amount of funding across the board from our LGAs, and that's just something we want to be able to bring up to be able to better service our athletes. We consider ourselves quite regional, and that's what we do at regional academies of sport, is try and give these kids from the bush their best opportunity to go to New South Wales Institute of Sport or the AIS. And on that page there, 14, I think it was, Southern Sports Academy, 22 LGAs, and currently we receive 18,200 from LGAs across our catchment. We're trying to come up with a new proposed funding model. If you slide down to page 16, we've got a goal that, and I think it's an attainable goal, is to we believe we can get our figure up to 55. We'd love to be number one, but let's be realistic. We just want to get off the bottom to give our kids better services, better opportunities. And we thought, well, with the amount of LGAs we've got, the population, the catchment area that we have, we thought 55 is an achievable number, and that also allows us to go up in numbers, hopefully to, somewhere around that 250 mark from the 180 that we're currently at this year. The funding model we're proposing is population based. So on page 19, I've got a breakdown of the LGAs in the catchment, so the 22 LGAs, and how we get to 55,000. The proposal there, there's nearly 300,000 people that live in our catchment.
You're on the 4-minute mark, Jared.
Yep, Hilltops being 6.3% of that. So the funding request is 3,465 from Hilltops. By doing it this way, we feel it's a fair contribution across the board. No one LGA is kind of propping up the rest. It's getting even contribution across the board from all of our LGAs, and no matter on the amount of athletes you have in the system, whether it's one athlete or whether it's 20 athletes, everyone's pitching in a fair and equitable amounts. Essentially, that's what we're looking at. 3,465 lock in for 3 years. It allows Hilltops to budget for the next 3 years. It allows us to budget as well, so we can provide the services to these kids moving forward, particularly with the Brisbane Olympics only 7 years away. The kids in our age bracket from 14 to 18, they'll be, if they're 17, 18 years old now, they'll be in that hot spot to be competing at Brisbane.
Thank you very much, Jared, for your presentation. And just so you know, Jared, and we've got other speakers in public forum, when we do a couple more items with the indulgence of councillors, we normally then bring any matters that we spoke to in public forum to the front of our agenda, so you don't have to be there all night waiting for the matter to be done. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Second speaker tonight is Sean Stewart, and it's in relation to the motion item 12.10, and it's in relation to the draft rural land study. Sean, same setup, same arrangement. It's amazing to see how it works, and sometimes you get there. There you go. Oh, I've started the clock.
You're right. Oh, thank you for hearing me today. The draft rural land study is what I'm talking about here today. We were involved in the consultation that the consultants came through for the 3 weeks. We live at 4105 Maringo Road, which, for those of you who don't know, is basically opposite Grove Estate. It's quite a unique area in the sense that there's a lot of small properties along that strip. We vary from 6.2 acres to 6 hectares. There's a lot of varying sizes going through there. This land study doesn't address our wishes or desires. We are in the new 2 kilometre zone outside the town limit, but you're only allowing people with 5 hectares to become R5, or someone that can provide 10 sites, which excludes all of us. I don't think that's fair. I think I speak for probably a lot of people in this town who want to provide perhaps 2 hectares, which is 5 acres. People come to this town for rural lifestyle, a change of pace. They don't necessarily want to live in town. I think that we're missing the point. I'd like that to be addressed by the council when they're reviewing the study. I realise this is just a draft and there'll be a consultation. So you'll probably be hearing from me again, I'm sure. That's what we really want. We want, because the 5 hectares, they're saying it's for vegetable growing. I don't know if you know too many people that grow vegetables on 5 hectares around here. I'd say not too many, and if they are, it's probably a tax write-off because you can't make money out of 5 hectares. There's no chance. That's all I had to say on this matter today. I'd like to put that in your mind because I will be coming back to speak to you again, and hopefully, I know it's just a study, but I think smaller lots, 2 hectares, should be permitted. Okay, excuse me. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean. And as you state, the study that we're talking about tonight and the options that will go out are going out for consultation to the public to get feedback, and we'll take all that feedback on board. Councillors have had 2 or 3 workshops on the matter, trying to negotiate and work out the best result for everyone that we think, and then we need the community feedback to see if we've got it right or not. So thank you. The last speaker tonight is Tina Eastlake on the same item, 12.10, the draft rural land study, and Tina, the same applies. So welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, General Manager, Mayor, councillors and fellow citizens. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this afternoon. I'm speaking to the agenda item listed as 12.10, the draft rural land study, an item that we've been expecting for a release for some months now, according to the Planning Department's estimates. It was communicated to me yesterday after speaking with a DA agent that it was expected that Council would only be looking to release some of the recommendations listed in the rural land study for public consultation. The wording in this meeting's agenda suggested a similar conclusion. I'm speaking to you this afternoon on favour of releasing the report in full to the public so that stakeholders may have the opportunity to comment. Firstly, measures ought to be taken to square off some very inconsistent zoning. Close to where I live, the zoning is RU4 up to a certain point and then jumps across the road with a few blocks of RU1 on one side and RU4 on the other before jumping back across to RU4, creating a horseshoe shape. There's no consistency at all. Secondly, the area generally south of Young toward Wombat is prime horticulture land as identified in the report. However, the opportunities to develop land in that area are difficult due to current zoning restrictions and the cost of being too high for newcomers to enter the market. The recommendations in the report are valid. 40 years ago, Young was the highest cherry producing region in New South Wales, and New South Wales was the highest producing state. This has since been overtaken by Victoria and Tasmania, and this region has been in decline. Even in the 7 years that I've lived here, I have seen a number of smaller orchards pushed out. A large reason for the decline is because of the current property sizes, many of which are currently zoned as RU1. This presents a significant barrier to entry for a newcomer buying a significantly larger block, which is often cost prohibitive. As the previous generations seek to retire, the cost of buying in for new farmers is beyond the reach of most people. There is the land size, the plant machinery and running costs, water access and housing considerations, with in-town living not a viable option due to the intensive workload. If it is the goal of the Council to support horticulture, and if the cherry and stone fruit industry is to be reinvigorated, new access needs to be unlocked. We need more RU4 land at an accessible price for new entrants or for those seeking expansion. This has been reflected in recent land sales, with real estate agents commenting that potential buyers are usually looking for very large blocks for broad acre farming or smaller farm blocks commensurate with their budgets and lifestyle goals. Concerns will be raised about mass subdivision and agricultural land being removed from agricultural production. However, RU4 requires a minimum lot size of 50 acres and is a viable lot size for a horticulture property as mentioned in the report. 50 acres takes a lot of hard work and maintenance, more than would be achievable if they were to be simply lifestyle blocks. By allowing the public to comment on the study, it greatly increases the opportunities for farmers to potentially offload some of their land to allow newcomers into the industry. Many farmers currently have land and water that isn't being fully utilised due to age and succession and the costs involved in optimising production on their land. It also allows long-standing farming families, such as mine, whose family have farmed in the district since the 1860s, to make succession plans. It would give people the possibility of dividing up their land for an inheritance for their children and allow the next generation to stay in the farming industry on viable
Minutes, Tina.
horticultural lots, whilst continuing to have their houses on the farm. It also allows an opportunity for property owners to leave the district if they feel that their elected Hilltops councillors no longer reflect the values and best interests of the community. So in conclusion, I am advocating that the report be open for the public consultation in full, so that landowners may have a say in the future of their land. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Tina, for the presentation, and I concur with your thoughts on that, Pat. And we've, as I've said, council has had several workshops to attempt to make sure we get our head around what any potential changes may mean. So that takes care of the public forum. The next item on the agenda is the statement of ethical obligations, which I take as read by councillors. The next item on the agenda is attendance and apologies. I have a request for a leave of absence from Councillor Stadmiller. Do I have any others?
And also Councillor Foreman, who's overseas.
And Councillor Foreman. So I'm happy to move that we accept the apologies from Councillor Foreman and Councillor Stadmiller. Seconded Councillor Flannery. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. The next item on the agenda is the expressions of sympathy. So I would ask everyone who can to be standing, please. We will have a moment of silence for the following: Mervyn White, Nita Brown, Angela Faulkner, Helen Sheedy, Michael Sheedy, Alwyn Atkin, Sonia Borg, Brian James, George Madge, Milton Spencer, Patricia Fitzgerald, William Fairley, Malcolm Sell, Cedric Wybrow, Maria Martins, Joanne Anderson, and Michael Haynes. Thank you, everybody. Next item on the agenda, councillors, is the confirmation of the minutes from the 27th of August Ordinary Council meeting. Moved Councillor Blackwell, seconded Councillor Davis. All those in favour? Councillors. That takes me to item 7, which is disclosures of interest. Does anyone have any disclosures of interest? I will declare not so much a disclosure conflict, but I will make it publicly known for integrity and all the reasons that I should, is that I have had a professional and a personal relationship with Mr. Carlefeld's father, Paul Carlefeld, who's in Wagga. Previously, professionally, when we were both running harness racing clubs at a state level, and more recently as a personal relationship in co-ownership of horses. Do I have any other disclosures? No. Thank you. Mayoral minute. There's no mayoral minutes today. The mayoral report diary is there. I'm happy to move that. I'll get a second. A second to Councillor Flannery. Happy to receive and note that. All those in favour?
Just a question, sorry, Mr. Mayor, before we just on one of the items, if that's okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to know if you could explain. I just didn't know what the mayoral summit against anti-Semitism was. I was wondering if you could explain what that
I just won
was.
$1,000. Thank you. The Australian Mayor Summit Against Anti-Semitism is exactly how it reads. All those in favour? Against? Carried, thank you. Now I have councillor reports. There's item number 10. Someone to move those. Councillor Davis, seconded Councillor Flannery. All those in favour? It's unanimous, thank you, councillors. Item 11 has been left out of our business paper, councillors. And item 11 is the Community Recognition Scheme. So if anyone in the room has any, we'll have one, and that is for the young cherry bombs who have just won the inaugural tackle women's league in Wagga last weekend. So they came from 4th on the ladder to go right through and take the final in the first year of that competition. So we'll send off a letter of congratulations and recognition to the cherry bombs. If that can be accepted, I'm happy to move that. I get a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Douglas. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Item 12. And before we go to item 12, as I said earlier on, I will move, and looking for a seconder, that we bring the matters that were dealt with in public forum forward, seconded by Councillor Flannery. Thank you. Everyone knows what I'm asking about, bringing the items forward. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. So having said that, we'll go to page 291, 12.10. Which is the draft rural land study. Now the recommendation, council, as it reads, is that council receive and note the rural lands study in attachment 1. I would like to move a motion to start the process off. And that motion is a printed copy that someone was going to give me. The motion to start the process off to give us, and I'll explain, is basically a starting point that's open to amendments or discussion on any added or taking any of these numbers out to start with, to send out to the public to start the process off. And that motion is that council receive and note the draft rural land study in attachment 1. B, place options 8, 9, 11, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 and 21 on public exhibition for 42 days. And C, delegate to the General Manager to confirm the content of the consultation documents that sit over the draft rural land study, which invites submissions on the options identified in B. So councillors, that's the motion that I'll put. If I've got a seconder, Councillor Douglas, thank you. So to speak to that, after the workshops we've had and the study we've had and went through it and the maps, and the maps are a bit hard to read sometimes and it's a bit difficult. But I thought for a good starting point, to get council's feelings, and I sent these out to councillors earlier to hopefully get some feedback, and I had some feedback and one was added. I feel that these are the areas that need to be looked at. There's some areas that I believe personally don't need to be looked at. They've been left the way they were for a reason. But as I said, this is a starting point to try and finish off a process that's been in the works for a long, long time. And so, councillors, if anyone's got any comments or amendments, now's the time to deal with them. Councillor Dodd.
Thank you, Mayor Ingram. I would like to add in option 4, which is area 14, which is just north of Young, and it's decreasing it from 170 hectares to 40 hectares. And I believe that that area is, sorry, so many areas, is right on the edge of Young, and would be better as that 40. I'm not sure if it reflects the current usage there, so it reflects what's actually there, going from 170 to 40.
Councillor Dodd, I'm happy to accept that amendment into the motion. So that's been added. So thank you. So that's fine. Any other councillor? Councillor Flannery.
I'd like to remove option 14. I think it has negative implications for our abattoir.
So Councillor Flannery would like to remove option 14, which is rezone A1 20 A1 10 acres. On option 4. Does anyone have any objections to 14? Please put it back there. It's not gone yet. Thank you. Does anyone like to speak in regard to that matter?
Could I ask a question, please? Mr.
Councillor
Mayor?
Douglas.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Area 14, which includes, and 13, which includes the abattoirs, is that separate from this?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the RU4 zoning creates the buffer for the abattoir, and so by reducing the minimum lot size, you would be you wouldn't be affecting the encroachment includes, but you'd be increasing the risk of potential neighbour conflict. Yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts on the removal of 1 footer? No. I'm happy to have that removed. Thank you. 14. Council, any other concerns, councils, or questions in regard to those? And as I said, I think it's a pretty good starting point there now. Then everyone's had an opportunity to look at those during the week, those options. And as we've said, this will go to the community. It's the first consult with the community. It will come back. Council will take on board all submissions and comments that are handed to us. Councillor Dodd.
Sorry, one more. Option 7, which is area 15, which is the area directly to the south of Young residential zoning. And it is actually mostly orchards at the moment, which are already at the 20 hectare or above. And I think that is that prime land which is good for cherry orchards and other agricultural uses. And I would like that to go out to the community because we're not agreeing that that is something that has to be included, but I think that is an area that should be available for the community to comment on.
Thank you, councillor. I won't accept that into the being removed, so we'll put that to,
Which option was?
Option 7.
Option 7,
I thought it was
which
in
is
there.
around area 15. Because we're not agreeing that to
no,
accept that.
I'm on board. I thought it was the other way around. Yeah. my bad. It's okay. I haven't got a problem with that, but I haven't got a problem that can be added to the motion. Thank you, councillor. Any other?
Just a question for the director. Option 5, which is area 19, it says from RU1 to RU1. So there's no change. That was on the assumption that RU1 went up to 200 hectares, was it?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's exactly correct.
Yeah. So it stays at 40.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, councillors, if there's no more discussion in regard to the matter, I'll put the recommendation that we start the process by sending information to our community with this. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. So that's item there. The next item we go to will be, which is marked down, help me out someone, with page 485, 14.1. Which is a motion put forward by the Mayor after being approached by the Southern Sports Academy. And Jared Carlefelt spoke in regard to this motion, councillors, and I've asked that council contribute the 3465 per year for the calendar years 25, 26, 27 from the discretionary fund that was founded and formed at one of our recent meetings for purposes like this, where there's a loophole where the cause is great and we have no set aside funding in our budget for it. And there's been a number of ideas thrown where this could be used. And we need to look at it. It is discretionary fund to councillors. And when I was approached about it, and the report was sent through to me very professionally, and we all got that report, and it was done very well. And it just goes back to basics for me. We're trying to help improve our youth and their sporting abilities to get professional help to take those elite athletes to the next level. And I think as a community of Hilltops, and when we were 6 there, I think Jared said this year, participating in this, and they're working on a new funding model which is equal to population of the different LGAs. So as he said, no, the big centres aren't carrying us smaller centres, and they shouldn't be. I thought this was a very worthwhile cause for council to support. So on that, I would seek a seconder for my notice of motion. Councillor Blackwell, thank you. Would anyone like to speak against the motion or for the motion? Yes.
I'll speak for it. I think, look, I've had daughters that are sporty. I think sport provides community vibrancy. And I think if we want to be proud of our kids, we've got to put the money forward. I very much support your efforts, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. On that note, I'll put that motion then. All those in favour? Thank you very much, councillors. It's much appreciated, and I know to Jared and the Southern Sports Academy will appreciate it, and it'll probably be one more dinner I can go to next year because I couldn't go this year because I was too embarrassed because we hadn't contributed. So thank you. So that deals with the matters that were dealt with in the public forum, which now takes me to item 12, which is General Manager's report. And the report there is the executive and their meetings attended. Do I have a mover and seconder? Douglas, thank you. Seconded, Councillor Dodd. Yeah, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Next item is 12.2. Preparation of the 24-25 financial statements. There's a report and the documentation there in front of you, Council, and the recommendation is too long for me to be reading out, Council, but refer the financial statements for the period ending 30 June 2025 to audit in accordance with section 413-1 of the Local Government Act. Note that the financial statements have been prepared in accordance with the Local Governments Act 1993 as amended and the regulations made thereunder, the Australian Accounting Standards and Professional Pronouncements, the Local Government Code of Accounting Practice and Financial Reporting. After this note, the financial statements are present fairly. Note the responsible accounting officer and general manager are not aware of any matter that would render the financial statements false or misleading. And in accordance with section 4132-C, the Mayor, Deputy Mayor, General Manager and responsible accounting officer be authorised to sign the statement by members and management of the financial statements. That the General Manager be delegated authority to issue the financial statements to the Office of Local Government upon receipt of the auditor's report, unless there are material changes to the financial statements arising from the audit. So get us off the starting blocks. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor Mackie, thank you. Councillor Flannery, seconded. Questions, comments? I'm not going to ask to go into committee, but councillors or questions from councillors. Councillor Flannery looks like he's hitting his button.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For those, for the new councillors and the people in the audience, we budgeted on a deficit of 4 million, and it's blown out to 12 million. So 4.47427, and it's arrived at 12.452 million. So that's a 200% plus increase, which is not good. A number of comments and plenty of questions. So to see where it's gone further in arrears, and again for the new councillors, I guess the learning part of it is it's not so easy on this side of the fence as it is on the other side of the fence to tell us what bad councillors we are. That said, it's hard to see how the budget, the original unaudited budget, got it so wrong, because these figures that have just gone through don't lie. And some of the points are that that we're $1 million out on our estimated rate revenue, so we collected $1 million less than we forecast. We were actually up $3.5 million on grants. There's a number of you would think they are immaterial, but they all add up. $200,000 down on user fees and charges, $200,000 down on other revenue, up $3.5 million on capital grants. The two of the bigger items that we're up on are employee benefits. So we and on costs. So our budget was 22 million. We end up spending 24 million. Materials, we budget on 22 million and we spent 27 million. So we're only $5 million out there, 25%. And the list goes on. So unfortunately, we're in the position that we are. That said, probably some positives that I would like to comment, or I don't know if they're positives, but areas that might allay some concerns. Our capital grants were $20 million and our depreciation is 24 million. So we are very close to matching our depreciation with capital expenditure. And then we have significant grants and contributions for operating purposes, another 15 million. So it's not that we're not trying to renew assets, we're just not doing it at the rate that they're running down. And that means we're going to have roads that are going to have to suffer longer with potholes in it and other services that don't get done up. Details on, if we look at last year's budget, we spent, and so these are some of the questions. Contract liabilities this time last year, our obligation was 14.9 million. This year it's 8.6 million, or at the end of the 25 financial year, just to be correct. Can the director advise, is the change, so the $6 million less of liabilities as a result of expenditure on capital and therefore an improvement of our capital infrastructure? Or it's probably Simon that's going to answer the question. I struggle to see how last year our employee benefits provision was 8 million and it's 11 million this year. It's up 3 million. I just don't know how. Well, could we have an explanation as to why employee benefits has jumped 3.7 million? Our interest expense is down significantly, so that's a good point. Cash and cash equivalents are down 12 million, which again I assume is expenditure on or grant money expenditure. But could that be confirmed? Page 39, we have $13.8 million of sale of investments and then 8 million purchase of investments. I couldn't clarify that in the notes. Could we get confirmation as to sale of the original budget, unaudited budget, 13.8 million of sale of investments, of which did not occur, and then again the purchase of investments of 8.6 million. Because they didn't occur, there was no explanatory note to them. People get sick of hearing me jump in.
I know where you go. I'm going to cut you off. That'll be the finish, so make the most of it.
At the next meeting, could we receive a list of the plant and equipment that was purchased that added to total 3.965 million? I note that because all heavy plant and equipment comes before council, however light vehicles don't. And my memory doesn't serve me that we've spent $3.9 million on heavy plant and equipment. But we have a list for the next meeting, please. Unexpended capital grants is 7.4 million. Last year it was 13.7 million. we'd be advised of if that's roadworks, bridges, total of that, please. Unwinding discount on page 105, unwinding of discount rates on reinstatement provisions of 685 million. That be explained. I couldn't find that in the explanatory notes, or I didn't understand it, one or the other. Page 111 million, page 111, and this is probably the most significant concern of the budget, or of the budget papers. So there's performance metrics here, and I'm sure the Mayor would have discussed these with the General Manager, but there's 6 performance metrics that we are supposed to judge ourselves by against other councils and state government expectations. We've met 2 of the 6 metrics. Most of them, the operating performance ratio, which is total continuing operation revenue excluding capital grants over the total continuing operating revenue. And I guess this is for the public more than anyone. You're meant to be above 0 and we're minus 19%. That said, I don't know of any rural councils that will ever achieve a surplus on their operating revenue, because we basically don't get grants from developer contributions, or as some people in the press might refer to them as corruption grants, corruption contributions. Own source operating revenue, again, we're very close. We've again failed here, but 57 as opposed to the hurdle of 60. Unrestricted cash ratio, the metric that we are judged by is greater than 1.5 times, and we're at 0.98. Debt service cover ratio, we exceed significantly, 2 times. So it basically means we have enough cash flow, more than enough cash flow, to cover our debts. And the issue council has is not of debts. We don't have an issue of debts. We have an issue of sourcing our expenditure or capital upgrades and not being dependent on state government grants. Our rates and annual charges outstanding percentage, and it's something council's tried to work very hard at. Last year at 12.5%, this year at 11.9%. When I look at the actuals, despite all the hard work we've done, we're only $200,000 better off than we were last year. So there's a number of issues that council needs to address, but addressing them is not very easy, as we all know. I guess to you, Mr. General Manager, how did we get it so wrong?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, does the Director want to take these questions first, because she's prepared some of the highlights that will answer many of your questions in the first instance.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery, and councillors, through you, Mr. Mayor. As you know, tonight we present to you the draft financial statements. I will go through some of the highlights and then pass to our management accountant and general manager to cover off anything else that needs to be addressed. As you know, the audited accounts are required to be delivered to the Office of Local Government by the 31st of October 2025. I do take this opportunity to thank staff for their effort in preparing these accounts. Our consolidated financial operating result before grants and contributions for the year, as detailed in the income statement, shows a net deficit of 12.45 million. The consolidated operating result from continuing operations shows a surplus of 8.53 million. There are some significant movements that have contributed to the change from the original budget of $4.43 million deficit to the final result of a $12.45 million deficit. In relation to waste charges, the original budget had waste charges to increase by 30% across the board. Following community consultation, council resolved that the waste charges would increase 5.1% in line with other increases. Further consultation was undertaken, and that resulted in a 5-year waste strategy to harmonise waste charges across the Hilltops, with the aim at full cost recovery within 5 years or after a 5-year period. During the financial year, user fees and charges increase due to additional state roadworks and additional water usage. Operating grants and contributions were reduced due to the reduced financial assistance grant of $3.1 million. This was partially offset by the Transport for New South Wales roadworks of $2 million. Capital grants increase of $3.5 million was mainly due to the Roads to Recovery program. We also improved our projected interest and investment due to our positive cash position. Employee benefits and on-costs increased against budget. This movement was substantially represented by an increase in employee leave entitlement and workers' compensation insurance increases. As we're all aware, the cost of insurance is increasing everywhere. It is noted that increased costs against the previous year were also attributable to the introduction of new positions as required by legislation, an award increase of 3.5% plus on costs, as well as an additional cash payment to eligible employees, plus an additional 0.5% in superannuation payments. Now that all sounds quite positive, but there are several factors that have led to a greater loss than budgeted. With the increase in income, as I mentioned, there is an offset to that in materials and services. When we receive money for roads, the cost of materials to undertake these works increase. We were also impacted by the hardened storm event in February. Some of those costs that council incurred will be unable to be recovered via insurance. A large portion of these costs were due to council allowing residents to take their waste to the waste facility free of charge. And as per our waste strategy, council must then cover the disposal of that waste. Also on materials and services, we ourselves used more water, which offset the gains noted earlier in relation to water charges. Our borrowing expense has increased by $600,000. This is in relation to remediation liabilities for tips and quarries. And although it doesn't make a great deal of sense that that would be recognised as a borrowing expense, it is per the accounting standard. Depreciation increased by $2 million across the board. This increase is valid given that we have an additional $35 million net carrying value of infrastructure, property, plant and equipment. And finally, in relation to the statement of financial position, we had a total equity increase of $33 million for the financial year. As you can see, we did utilise some cash during the year, which reduced our cash position. This was used to fund the increase in infrastructure, property, plant and equipment and to pay down loans. The non-receipt of 25% of the financial assistance grant also impacted this result. We had budgeted to receive 75% of this grant in advance as per previous years. However, the federal government only advanced 50% of the total amount. This resulted in our unrestricted cash position being $5 million. It should be noted, however, that by the end of August, our unrestricted cash position had improved to $8.3 million. Our cash position is therefore satisfactory. That being said, it's not lost on myself, the General Manager or the Executive, that we must be very mindful of the way forward and of operating within our means.
Thank you for that, Director. Now, we're going to add, Councillor Flannery had some questions. Were Simon going to answer any of those questions tonight for Councillor or?
I think I can, through you, Mr. Mayor, I can talk to the statement of performance measures in the first instance while we look at, obviously, the non-receipt of the federal assistance grant. That's some $3.1 million. That obviously affects our cash position. So obviously that would affect our unrestricted cash ratio, which would take it under, would severely impact it, which is why it's achieved 0.98, not the 1.5 is the goal. Own source operating revenue continues to increase. However, our user fees and charge have levelled off. Obviously, as part of that will be addressed over time through the waste strategy, which, as councillors may recall, part of our deficit in that area is some $4 million, including depreciation, which of that 4 is about 2.5. With the operating performance ratio, obviously with the elements that the Director highlighted, being the depreciation for one, which is a particular hit, and obviously the 600,000 for remediation affects that figure. The rates and annual charges outstanding. Yes, thank you. Thanks everyone for acknowledging it's difficult to recover those funds, but we have made slow and steady progress. One of the things that we do in that space now is obviously the land sales, which has cleared up some of the very old outstanding rates, and also we are making headway into water with the support of councillors implementing the water restrictors. That has had an uptick in payment plans. Many of these are in payment plans rather than complete payment of outstanding debts. I think that's it for me, other than to say, yes, we were certainly hit by some of those additional elements. I will now pass back to the Director for any additional comments from the team.
Thank you, General Manager. Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Flannery, would you like to go through each of the questions now, or have any of your questions been answered?
If you can answer them sufficiently, that would be good, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Tony, you might have to run through a few of those because there was quite a few as a list, so we might need a little refresher. Contract liabilities, you question
I might
contract.
find more as I go back through it.
Yeah, well, we might
How about
go with what you've got.
Contract liabilities, we spoke about contract liabilities at 14 million down to 8. When you look at contract liabilities, they are payments that are paid in advance. So we hold those funds until we actually do the work. So they sit as a contract liability. The major one there was a $5 million road program, which we've now spent. So that would be the use of that cash. The remaining would be Jugiong Pool, because we were also paid in advance for that. So that's the large part of the movement down from 14 to 8 in contract liabilities.
So that then feeds into
That feeds into your cash.
fair
So
value
you've
and
actually,
depreciation.
that's
Yep.
correct. So when we've done a revaluation, which a revaluation has been
But
a
they have
major,
been revalued up since that work in this budget, or it
They-
comes through next year?
because they were done this year, if they were done this year, like the roads, they are valued as at now. So it takes out all your impairments, etc. But that would have been an indexation on that unless there's a major change in asset.
Okay, so that $6 million differential should have gone straight back into the capital appreciation of the assets.
It will go into the gross book value of that, the gross cost of that asset, and then depreciated over the life of that asset, depending on what that would be. Whether that can be as short as a 12-year, 15-year, 20-year, 60-year, 80-year, depending on what the asset is.
And sorry, through Mr. Mayor, just to add on to that, any asset that is renewed or replaced, any carrying book value obviously is extinguished because it's replaced by effectively a new asset.
That will also have an impact on your cash,
Yep.
because that's where we've used the cash to actually do those capital programs.
Which was one of the questions.
Enough?
Yes, I am.
The liability
That was
issue-
also a question about the cash. Was that there was a $12 million change in cash held from last year to this year? How much of that was in those contract liabilities?
Just to remind councillors through you, Mr. Mayor, we did receive close to, I think it was it $8 million FAG last year, just on like the 28th of June, like the previous year.
Yes.
Yeah, so the 18 odd million that you saw, that was like 2 days before we got 8 million. So then that was all related to the timing of the federal assistance grant. Just to highlight what the Mayor was saying before, and to echo the Director's comments, we are reviewing the budget to ensure that anything that was under budgeted is being reflected so that councillors have a clear view. One of those is the budget that was prepared for the 25-26 year. It was budgeted to receive 75%, which, as we said before, we will be taking that federal assistance grant back to 50% and rolling that through the budgets and discussing that with you.
So one of the other questions, Simon, was I lost it now. There was a budgeted, sort of had an impairment of 5 million net. We budget on asset sales of 13.8 million and purchases of investments of 8.6. What were the asset sales?
With the investments, that's largely cash movements. I will talk to Simon about that. but usually it's an in and an out of the cash movements of investments rolling through the year. As where they roll off, they get purchased and sold effectively.
Another questions, I think, or if it wasn't, it should have been. We're showing 1.8 million less borrowings, down from 10.36 to 8.57. Yet our interest expense has gone up 600,000.
The 600,000 is the land remediation that Sarah talked about, and it's good to say that we have been making our loan repayments as and when they fall due.
Okay, and then the other, there was bringing the details about machinery purchases to the next
Yes, we certainly can bring that information to you.
meeting. And
Thank you, Councillor Flannery, and thank you to staff. Has anyone else around the table got any questions? I've got some comments to make, but I'll wait to last. No one else has got any comments then. From my point of view, yeah, very disappointing when you have a projected deficit of 4.5 and it turns up to be 12.5. But just to be transparent with everyone, the $12 million deficit is a consolidated deficit. The general fund deficit was $15 million. And when you take the water and sewer surpluses off it, it brings back a consolidated deficit of $12.odd million, just for the sake of transparency. So what I've asked and tasked the General Manager and staff with is we have a quarterly budget review coming up in September. Because it would appear that we budgeted so far off the mark last year, I've asked them to have a look at the forecasted budget that was set to council for 25-26, and any of these necessary adjustments that need to be made and shown to councillors in the September quarterly budget review, because I'm pretty sure I can really speak to every councillor in this room. I don't really want to be sitting here next year trying to explain the same thing. Some of those things, as mentioned, been unavoidable. The way the federal assistant grant was paid to us and then reduced in the payment. The waste charges won't kick in yet. There's a number of things that happen that add up to a bit, but to go back to a bit of positive, and we talk about cash, and cash is king. Our unrestricted cash, as just stated, is sitting around the $8.3 million, and I sat in on an ARIC meeting yesterday, which is an Audit Risk Improvement Committee, and the chair, there were 2 independent members on that panel who keep their eye over councils, and they do it for a number of councils, and the chair of that committee yesterday commended our council for being in that unrestricted cash position, because there's a lot bigger councillors around New South Wales that would love to have the amount of unrestricted cash that we have. There's a catch. It's presented as unrestricted cash. There's any number of roads out there waiting to have that cash spent on them. So when you say it's unrestricted and I say, oh, Mr. General Manager, I want to do something, we've got no money. So we just need, it's termed unrestricted cash, but I can assure you there's roads out there wanting for that cash to be spent on them. But it's a great position to be in. We cover all our debts without any problems at all, and we don't owe a lot as an organisation. When you look at how big the organisation is, our borrowings, any bills, and it spoke to our cash position when the unfortunate storm hit Harden, that as a council we could commence repairs and everything we could do because we had the cash there to do it with, and then went to the disaster funding to come back to us. But we had the money to deal with it, so that's the advantage of having cash in day-to-day business. As I said, the General Manager and staff will be tasked with updating us with the September budget and quarter review as to where we're heading this year, and we need to address. It's no good sitting there and going around the next year doing the same and the same and the same, because you will get the same result. So we've got a financial improvement strategy that's been put in place for a little while, and there's a number of issues around that, and one of them is internal efficiencies, and I know staff probably get sick of hearing me bash on about it. But we need to start looking at those things and line by line items, and the little things that will maybe we can reduce expenditure on. The thing to keep in mind, and that word that Councillor Flannery used was depreciation. It's an unfortunate line item on the other side of $24 million. But the fact that it shows a deficit of 12 million in our consolidated funds means that our infrastructure backlog is getting bigger. So while it doesn't affect the day-to-day running of the organisation, there always comes a day of reckoning, as anyone in the room would know in business. So we have to need to try and address that so that our infrastructure backlog doesn't get completely out of control. So that's enough for me on it. I have said I've had several discussions with the General Manager in regard to this, and there's some conversations being had with councillors in regard to where we need to look at, and we look forward to a better result coming up.
Mr Mayor, another question. Just
one more.
So on page 55, and some of the questions I'll ask further with the budget review, but when we sit and shake our hands and try and work out in the council workshops what's gone up and what's gone down and what's contributed to it, wages and salaries, it's up $1.69 million, including all the on-costs. So the thing I don't understand is how our employee leave entitlements, which have gone up 400,000, it's a 15% jump. We talk about 3% here, 4% there, and whether Simon or the director could answer, superannuation, 15% jump. I mean, how do we not get these figures budgeted correctly? The workers' comp insurance, 37% jump. These are not 2 and 3% jumps. They're 37% is something that we're getting wrong in our system. There is something in our system that's not right. Training costs up 20%, which can happen. Depreciation schedule, office equipment up 25%. Open spaces up 60%. And for depreciation to be up 60%, the actual cost must have gone up 150% if it's at 30%. But there's something wrong when we're getting, sure, we're paying these amounts of money. How are we not budgeting for them?
And that goes to the point where the overview of the September quarterly budget review will need to be done before it's presented to us, Council. I agree. But would the Director like to answer any of those comments, or the General Manager, before I move on?
Through you, Mr Mayor, the workers' compensation insurance, we only know that in the last quarter, how it would be affected. Obviously, that's affected by how much salary and wages that we actually make. In relation to employee leave entitlements...
Can I just jump in? We pay wages weekly, so to be out by 37%...
We get a final workers' compensation insurance figure, which is set for the next year by the insurer, which we don't know until they give it to us. Just in relation to employee leave entitlements, that's the employee leave entitlements has gone up as part of the provision because we have an ageing workforce and we have increased the provision for employee entitlements, which affects unrestricted cash. So we've been conservative there. We have many in the older age bracket now, and that's one of the effects in that mix. But more broader questions, we will bring that back as part of that review that the Mayor talked about, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. So, councillors, that's where we're at the moment, and these, I say, we're referring the financial statements to the Audit Office, and once the auditors run their eyes through it and their hands all over it, and the independent and external auditor was at the ARIC meeting yesterday, and they're waiting for these papers and financials to go through to them to scrutinise, and when they come back, then we'll be able to sign some documents off in regard to the financial statements. On that note, I had a mover and a seconder to start with, didn't I? Of course I did. Yeah. There's no further questions. I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Item 12.3 is the draft Hilltops Council Code of Meeting Practice. And the recommendation is to approve. Move Councillor Flannery, seconded Councillor Langford. Thank you. We're going to speak to it, Councillor Flannery.
Very good question, Mr Mayor. Look, I commend the policy. It's by and large as recommended by the state government and updated since the new election. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone like to speak against the recommendation?
Mr. Mayor, perhaps you are probably owed another $1,000, but I'd like to move an amendment.
You're dead right. Just doubled it up. Move your amendment, Councillor Blackwell.
Again, no surprises. I would like to move an amendment that the policy go out with meeting time scheduled for 1:30, not 4:30 on a Wednesday. Obviously, we've spoken about this issue as a council before briefly. It is about, for those of us who are travelling from Burrawa and other places, the distance in the winter especially, and the evening hours and things like that. And I can go into more detail. I think I would be open to a compromise of earlier meeting in the Australian Standard Time, or even for the 3 winter months, if people will be willing to accept a not for the full year to make them earlier in the winter. I think we'll make better decisions earlier in the day. Other councils around us have earlier meetings than 4:30. I think yes, it may put some people at a slight disadvantage, but it is only one day a month. So I think for those of us who do have to travel into Young, moving them slightly earlier, even if only for the winter, and I would be happy to amend the amendment to make that case. I think 1:30 would be a good time for the meetings to be held.
Thank you, Councillor. That amendment's not accepted. And so we will now put that recommendation on hold, and we will speak and vote on the amendment. Councillor Blackwell's just spoke for it. Would anyone else like to speak against it?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, is there a seconder for the amendment?
No, there's not a seconder yet. I'm sorry, no.
I'm happy to second the amendment.
Seconded, Councillor Mackie. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Councillor Davis.
Yeah, I'm going to speak against it. One, for people, majority of us probably run businesses here, and for me to leave my employees at 1:30 in the middle of the day, it's not practical. Running a business, we all knew what time the meetings start when we campaign and wanted to run, and we were all willing to do it then. I don't see why it should change. I also think in the future, if we change it, it'd probably disencourage people to run. If they're employees or business owners, they just can't leave their business or their workplace in the middle of the day to come and run for it and stuff like that. And I think it's worked so far. We've all seemed to still make meetings at 4:30, so I'm against it, sorry.
Thank you, Councillor. Would anyone else like to speak for it? Anyone else like to speak against it? I'm sorry, Councillor Mackie.
I'd just like to speak for it.
Yep, sorry.
I know that I've spent 4 years dodging roos in the dark, once a month, and I think it's a great compromise that we perhaps just look at the winter months. I had my own business for years, 23 years, but there were times when I had to make decisions that probably suited more people than just me. So I think, for all due respect to Councillor Davis, it's pretty tough in winter that you finish up. Well, in the past, it was later than we are now, but I would appreciate it really if we just had a good look at the winter months.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone like to speak against it?
Mr. Mayor,
Flannery.
I'd like to speak against it. I acknowledge that winter meetings, it's dark when you go home. I, however, run a business, employ staff. It's more than just a once a month. There's a lot that goes into attending council meetings. Often there's workshops, as we know, which can start at 4:30, but invariably there's other workshops that I struggle to attend, and that compromises the role I perform on council. I think to say it only affects 1 or 2 people, I think it actually affects the majority of the people who might otherwise run and can't get away easily, whether they're business owners or employees. We talk about getting the meetings moved to Harden and Burrawa because we think it would give the community more ability to attend the meetings, despite the fact it's on video, and then we want to move it forward to 1:30 when they can't get there anyway. So I'm not too sure how that all works. It has worked for I guess, ever in the day, I'd prefer to move it back to 5 o'clock like it used to be than to move it forward. And I think I drive as far as anyone, but we should keep it where it is. We knew what we're in for when we stood for council. I think we disadvantage more than we advantage the one or two.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Anyone else like to speak for the amendment? Would anyone else like to speak against the amendment? Councillor Langford.
Yeah, I think Councillor Flannery said in the old days it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and I think he's right that it's difficult enough to get people to come along to a meeting. By moving it till the middle of the day, it's going to make it even more difficult. And I suppose at the end of the day, during those winter months, we maybe have to use Zoom or Teams more often if you don't want to attend the meetings at that time.
Thank you, Councillor Langford. So there's no one to speak for it last time. I'll speak against the amendment. I spoke against the changing of the meeting times before. Going on what was said in the mover of the amendment, we would have to change the workshop times. We'd have to change everything because the reason was travelling in the dark. Well, 4:30 the workshops go to nearly the same time. Sometimes you're in the dark. So the other part is when we stood for council, the times were set. I understand things change in life. I don't believe they should be changing halfway through. This opportunity to come out to move this amendment is because the Minister for Local Government made some amendments to the Code of Meeting Practice, which is in debate whether they're beneficial or not to councils. But yeah, I think for the reason of the people who have businesses and work, to take take a third of a day off to get there at 4:30 without you go back to 1:30, their day's lost. Council with employs people. I myself could probably manage most things. It just makes things a bit more difficult, especially on days like today. I had a Hennessy celebration, the Mass. I had a citizenship ceremony. If I'm going to put a council meeting on that at 1:30, I'm going to have to start at 9 o'clock in the morning. That doesn't really work for me. So on them points, Councillor, I'm sorry I can't support your amendment. Would anyone else like to speak for, against? If not, I'll give Councillor Blackwell the right to reply. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few points from those that have been raised. I think there are some good points that have been raised. On the issue of workshops and Zoom, this draft Code of Meeting Practice states very clearly that only illness and caring duties are a reason to not attend a council meeting. So you would have to either have an illness or be lying to your colleagues about why you didn't want to attend in the winter months. As Councillor Langford said, you can attend via Zoom in the winter months if you didn't want to drive. That, to my reading, wouldn't be allowed in the current Code of Meeting Practice.
Councillor, you're fine with that point, except I don't know about the connotation of using the terminology lying.
Oh, sorry. I withdraw that.
Thank you.
Word, but you would have to either have an illness or misrepresent yourself to your colleagues as to why you didn't want to attend, if the new Code of Meeting Practice goes into place. As for the workshops we can attend via Zoom already, and many of us have and do. So the moving of the meetings to 1:30 would not change the workshop times, because we still can Zoom into those for any reason. So that would allow those of us, and I'm a regular attender of the workshops and the briefings via Zoom, as are many of our colleagues. So I don't think that the implication that it changes the workshops, I don't think is the case. But I'm sure the general manager, if he disagrees, can say so. I think in terms of discouraging people from running, obviously we review the Code of Meeting Practice after every election. So if there is a new cohort of councillors and all 11 of us are not here, and there's 9 new people at the next election, and they all want to make it 9 a.m. or 7 p.m., that new council has the right to make that change. It doesn't really. It has. I would say it has little effect on a future council, because any future council can change it themselves. So yes, it might discourage people from thinking they can't run, but really, any new council has the power to make a change to the meeting time, as I'm proposing we do now. Obviously, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. On that note, I'll put the amendment. All those in favour? Those against? That amendment's lost. I will now put the recommendation that's in front of us, that's been moved and seconded.
Excuse me,
Mr. General Manager.
Mayor, I don't need to interject. There was one change from the information I provided at the briefing session. It was in relation to public forum. After a meeting with my peers through a general manager's discussion circle, they call it, and the CEO of the OLG was there, it was clear that the public forum cannot be part of the meeting. So therefore, it has to be held outside of the meeting. Notwithstanding that, a requirement of a public forum being available is that it's live streamed. So the practical effect of that is you as councillors must determine a meeting time, place, etc., as was just discussed. So in this code of meeting practice, I believe it's consistent with it. The start time for the public forum is posed at 4:30, and the wording used for when the council meeting starts is the council meeting will follow once the public forum has been done. So that's just one change, but it is a change from what I advised you at the briefing, so I thought it appropriate that I tell you.
Thank you very much, Mr. General Manager. On that note, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. That was unanimous, wasn't it?
Yes.
Item 12.4, draft fraud and corruption control policy. I have a report there, councillors, and recommendation approve the reviewed draft fraud and corruption policy for public exhibition for 28 days, and if no submissions received, delegate the general manager to adopt the fraud and corruption policy. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Blackwell, Councillor Gallo, thank you. Conversation in regard to the matter? I'll put it. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. 12.5 is another draft. It's a draft media and communication policy, and same deal. Council approved the reviewed draft media and communication policy for public exhibition and submission for 28 days, and if none received, delegate the general manager to adopt. Have a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Douglas and Councillor Mackey, thank you. Any discussion or questions in regard to the matter? All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you, councillors. 12.6, draft water leakage staged payment policy. The recommendation, councillors, same lines, approve the reviewed draft water leakage staged payment policy for public exhibition and submissions for 28 days, and if no submissions received, delegate the general manager. Any discussions in regard to that?
Question, Mr Mayor.
Did I get a move
Have
and
we
seconder?
moved? I'll move and second.
Moved, Councillor Fennery, seconded, Councillor Blackwell.
Do all, would these payment policies come before council? We're authorising the general manager to approve the payment policy under this. If there's someone suffers, from a huge water leak, they normally and they're asking for council to reconsider the bill or the impost, and we've got a stage policy, payment policy. Does it get notified to council, or would it just happen under delegation?
Thanks, Councillor Flannery. Through the Mayor, it would happen under delegation. The General Manager would be able to then negotiate with the resident.
Right, so it wouldn't be advised.
Thank you. Any further questions? No, I'll put that. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. 12.7 is the cash, investment and unrestricted cash report. Movers and seconders. Councillor Mackey, thank you. Councillor Davis, thank you. Do we have any questions in regard to the cash investment and unrestricted cash report?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Langford.
Just a couple there, St George Bank, couple at 3.3%. And I noticed one was just renewed back in August, runs through until April, so 6 months I take it. I presume they're adjusted as they become due.
Yeah. Yes. No. Would someone like? I brought this up before. Would someone like? Director like to speak to that? Finance team. Thank
To
you.
you, Mr. Mayor. So when the investments fall due, we contact the bank and ask them to give us the best rate. We have a couple of issues when it comes to the time that the investments fall due. One is if most councils have a surplus of cash quarterly when their rates are due. Some of the banks will not take any more cash from us because they're flush with cash. So we do not get the best that we think. However, they're the best rates that the banks are offering at that time. We do negotiate pretty hard with the banks, but of course, we're at the bank's mercy for what they offer. But yes, they do. We do look at them every time they fall due.
Thank you. And up until yesterday, and again, I'll refer to the ARIC meeting, where it was explained to all that, yes, the banks will say no to taking your money. I did say at that meeting yesterday, mine's open, but the official banks didn't want it, so. But yeah, and as Councillor Langford alluded to, you know, for that amount of money, you're nearly 1% down on some of the other rates, so it's a bit of a concern. But thank you for answering that. Any other questions in regard to that report? I'll put that report then. All those in favour? Thank you. 12.8, outstanding rates and sundry debtors report. Moved Councillor Flannery, seconded Councillor Blackwell. Any questions in regard to this report? Councillor Flannery.
In relation to when we looked at the budget, for all staff's work, the disappointing aspect was we'd made an inroad into the 5-year because we sold their properties. So that wasn't that hard to do in one sense. Once we sell it, we get the money. But the budget revealed that we haven't made any inroads in the 0 to 5 years at all, or the 10 months to 5 years.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, predominantly we have been addressing the oldest debts first to try and recoup those. Having 2 sale of lands in the past 2 years has been it's a big job and there's a lot go into it. We have introduced the flow restrictors, as councillors are aware, so we have put the first lot of flow restrictors on, which I found were quite effective. We will look at doing flow restrictors again, but possibly we won't be able to do those until the end of November, early December, because we have bills that have just gone out and we'll have to do the process of reminder notices and giving notice. We have still been chasing our debtors, but once again, we try, but we can only get so much money, and we do put people on payment plans. So we do make a steady progress. We don't get payments in one go, but we do have a lot of payment plans out there for people to try and recover some money for council.
Thank you for that.
Just
Councillor
a question
Douglas.
through you, Mr. Mayor. Those that are on payment plans, are they reflected in these figures?
Yes. Yes.
They still are overdue?
They still owe money. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, that's correct. They still show as outstanding until the debt's cleared. Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions of Christine?
Yes,
Councillor
just
Blackwell.
one from me. Again, Mr. Mayor, wanting to add to your little tab. Just can you give me an update on the water flow restrictors?
Yep. So we currently, at the last flow restrictor installation, we installed 10 flow restrictors. We currently have 5 still installed. So that's 2 in Young, 1 in Hardin and 2 in Boorowa. And of course, they'll remain there until either the debt is serviced or they enter into a suitable payment arrangement for payment.
Thanks so much.
No worries.
Again, thank you, Christine. No further questions of the officer. That's the case. I'll put that item. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. 12.9 is the post-exhibition review of Hilltops Place naming policy for adoption. The recommendation is to note the submission received during the public exhibition period, adopt the post-exhibition Hilltops Place naming policy as outlined in attachment 1, and C, endorse the Hilltops Place and Road names register as provided in Schedule 1 of the Hilltops Place naming policy for use in future selections of place and road names in the Hilltops LGA. Have a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Langford, thank you. Councillor Blackwell seconded. Councillor Langford, you like to speak to the matter, or?
Nothing to add, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Has anyone got anyone conversation in regard to, or speak against it, I suppose I could ask. If not, for it, I'll put the matter. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. We've dealt with 1210 for the time being. We come to 1211 as the proposed hardened dog park, and the recommendation is approve the construction of a dog park at 67 Albury Street. Harden, do I have a mover? Do I have a,
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'd just like to ask if we could defer the matter just for some more clarification.
you can, we better have a mover and a seconder to put it on the books. So I'll move it for you. Councillor Gallo seconded. Councillor Gallo, the floor's yours.
I'd just like to defer it. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend the briefing. I'd just like to say thank you to the team for doing a great job. Just a few issues that we had sort of discussed, which was a secondary fence off the pool fence, just to stop the dogs running up to the pool fence, is something that I think we probably should look at. And just incorporating a small dog area into that, and just reviewing the 6-foot fencing, whether that's actually really needed, and we could use that extra money to use a bit more fencing elsewhere. I find that we can get the bag dispensers for $136 versus the $300. The seating, I do believe we've got a tender with a company that supplies and installs seating and does marketing on them, whether we could utilise that as well and save a bit of money there. Just a few other options.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gallo.
I'll second the deferral.
Yep, seconded by Councillor Flannery, and I'll support the deferral on the reasons that Councillor Gallo has given, and I appreciate her expertise, if you like, in the area we're talking about, and really appreciate someone being able to contribute to the matter of how we can do it best and not have to do it then redo it. So thank you, Councillor, for bringing that to our attention. Unless anyone else wants to speak in regard to that matter, I'll put the matter that we defer this for a design workshop, maybe I'll call it, and go from there. So, all those in favour of deferral? It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Councillor Gallo. 12.12, Development Application Stats for August 2025. Moved, Councillor Flannery. Seconded, Councillor Dodd. Thank you. Any questions in regard to that item, councillors? I'll take that as a no. In that case, I'll put that matter. All those in favour? Unanimous. 12.13, GNB 2025/0001, road naming for a new road in subdivision at Back Creek Road, Young. There's a report there, council, and the recommendation is receive and note the report, endorse the road name of Johnson Drive for public exhibition, and proceed with the finalisation of Johnson Drive with the New South Wales Geographical Names Board following public exhibition, subject to no submissions being received. If submissions are received, a further report will be provided to council. I'll mover and a seconder. Councillor Douglas, thank you. Councillor Langford, thank you. Councillor Douglas, would you like to speak to it, or questions, or?
No, it meets all requirements, and happy to put this forward.
Thank you very much, councillor. Anyone else like to speak in regard to the matter? Sounds like a no, so that's very easy, Director. I'll put that item. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. Now, don't get too comfortable, Director. Item 12.14, Capital Works Report. And the recommendations we receive and note the report. Have a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Blackwell. Seconded, Councillor Davis, thank you. Councillor Blackwell, any questions or speaking? No, it's okay. I'll go around the table first. Has anyone else got any questions they'd like to ask about the Capital Works Report?
Through you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Davis, my word. And I should note, councillors, there was a late update with this report because it was left out of the report we got earlier with the numbers in it. So, Councillor Douglas.
Director, could you please explain on the last page of the report where it's got expenditure and it's gone over budget? and it's got overspend covered by program. What does that mean?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that's relatively common in the gravel resheeting program or in the roads program in general. What that means is that it's the overspend on that particular road will be covered by underspends on other roads within the same capital program. So it might be young local unsealed roads, for example. You can cover an underspend on one road in the young area with an overspend on one road with an underspend in another road in the same area. Because what council actually resolves is the budget for that overall program. Say it's young, Harden or Burrawa. Unsealed or sealed roads is the endorsed budget, and we as staff work the program within that to meet the overall budget.
Anyone else have any questions? I have, but Councillor Flannery, away you go.
On page 432, it lists Burrawa Street, Kurawatha. And the last meeting, I asked a question about Burrawa Street, Kurawatha, whether we should allocate, because part of it's asphalt and part of it's gravel, whether we should allocate additional funds from elsewhere, given we're going to have the machinery out there, because I think both need attendance and get a whole lot knocked over in one go. But I haven't seen any notes to that or anything on the budget. Scenic Road, I asked where the work was occurring, and it's still not clear from this report. Do we have any information on the proposed lights for Gus Smith Oval? Because we considered putting additional lights in and finding money. 3 questions, I think. Kalangan Road on page 437, it lists heavy patching at intersection of Kalangan Road and Gaylong Road. Would be advised of the details of that work. I'm not aware of what's required. It is a bad intersection, but is it just heavy patching, and is it coming from the VPA money?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that is exactly what that work on Kalangan Road is heavy patching of the intersection only, and it is coming from the VPA. Burrawa Street, Kurawatha, I've confirmed that we've budgeted for about 480 metres of the sealed section, which is slightly over half, I believe. So that's from the Olympic Highway to Winslow Street to reseal and to resheet the whole of the unsealed section of Burrawa Street. And yes. And the Scenic Road, we have budgeted for, I believe it's 2 kilometres of resheeting as stated in the report. It's very difficult to nominate the exact sections at this stage because, as you know, conditions on the unsealed road will change over time. But
that's why I'm asking, because there's a lot of parts of it that are not good, so I want to know where you're spending the money.
Yeah, so certainly if you know if you have any feedback as to the areas that you think are particularly bad, we're happy to take that on board. But we will assess the road much closer to the time that we're actually getting out there to make sure that we are getting the worst sections.
Thank you.
Gus Smith lights.
And Gus Smith lights, we've only just heard back from the contractor today. The contractor for the existing works. So we'll bring a report to October about the additional lighting request.
Thank you. So, in the initial report that we got, and I made some notes about there'd been no gravel resheeting done. Here we are in the mid-September, but then the updated report we got, it's got some allocations of money, not a lot at all, on the gravel resheeting program. Are we having difficulties undertaking our gravel resheeting program, or are we just really, really slowly starting to work up to it? Because even with the report I received tonight, there's only a couple of instances where gravel resheeting has taken place, and one of them, the major one, I think, is $10,000, 65% complete. Are you confident at this stage, and I know it's in September, that we will complete our gravel resheeting program as passed by councillors in the budget?
Yes, so noting that it is quite early in the year still, you're correct, we have had some challenges. Currently we're running 5 out of 7 grading crews because we have 2 off due to sickness. We obviously have some challenges in the weather, but I'm confident that we can recover throughout the year and complete the program.
Probably should have added before I let you answer that please don't use climate change. I've heard enough about what it's caused. So, yeah, you can be assured from here on home that this particular council will be keeping a very close eye on that, as you know, on that gravel resheeting program, because it's one of our core businesses.
Yes.
Any other councillors have any questions? Councillor Flannery's got his finger on the button.
Yep, and I was waiting for your questions on the gravel resheeting, and I did ask it, I can't remember if it was the last meeting or the meeting before, the quantity of gravel that we have pushed up, because I don't know the answer, but I do wonder whether we are delayed in our gravel resheeting because we don't have a gravel ready to go. So is the director aware of what quantities of gravel we have pushed up, whether it's 2 months worth, 6 months worth, probably more so than cubic metres? The other question, perhaps for the General Manager or for Simon, where in the budget would we find, and it pertains particularly to gravel resheeting, the amount of cartage that contractors do relative to council? Is it split up for roadworks? Not wanting to... I do wonder whether our budget gets affected by not being able to budget as to what we do versus a contractor.
Okay.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe the costing is shown, allocated to contractors or to staff and council equipment under the roads program. That is detailed in the budget and in the financial statements.
Bound it out of the chair.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, you'll see the capital program. It'll be at a gross level, so you won't actually see what it's breaking down for contractors, plant and equipment, or materials, but you will see it. The total program will be in your capital budget.
So if, for example, council had 2 trucks off the road or a couple of staff, and we had to actually use contractors to get more of the gravel resheeting program done, that would push the budget allocation up or not because of our internal charges?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, where we do the calculation, if we were going to do it purely by our staff, then you would see potentially a change in the movement in, if it was a large program, and it'd have to be a significantly large program, you would see a movement potentially between projects or the recovery from plant. But we do have depending on the costing, we do have a large amount of that material and contract in there. So you may not see that initially. It'll still stay as a whole budget unless there's a major change.
Thank you, Simon, for that. Any other questions in regard to that report, councillors?
How much we got?
On the gravel, yeah.
Yes.
So
So
you've got to be careful with his answer now because I asked this.
to the question on gravel, if you had asked me a couple of meetings ago, I did have exact figures, but since you're happy with a duration answer, at the start of the financial year, we had enough gravel for the year's program.
2 years, did you say?
For 1 year.
So there's plenty left.
Very good. So
Haven't
just
used
gotta
much.
move it.
Yeah.
That's right. Gravel is not a limiting factor in this case.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Blackwell's got a question.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. A non-gravel question. Do we have an update on when the Burrawa pipeline report is going to come to us? I heard October, but it could be. I just want to get a sense from you when we might see it.
Yes, October.
October. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. That seems to be all the questions on that item. I'll put the recommendation that we receive and note the report. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. Takes us over to the operational works report with a recommendation to receive and note the information provided on works completed and works planned. Moved Councillor Douglas, seconded Councillor Gallo. Thank you. Yep. Councillor Douglas, any questions in regard to the item?
Through you, Mr Mayor, could I just get an update on the Currawong Road stormwater works that have been happening on Currawong Road? Because it seems to have come to a halt, and I've had a few questions asked, and also about the stockpile of, I guess, removal from Currawong Road that's on Roberts Road that's now accumulating waste. People are adding to the dump rubbish there.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll have to take the question about Currawong Road on notice. I don't have the exact details on me at the moment.
Is it possible just to get the stockpiles looked at, because people are adding building waste and etc. to it? When we removed all the stormwater pipes on Currawong Road, they were all just dumped at the end of Roberts Road, which was approximately 2 months ago, along with all the dirt and rubbish.
Yes, we can do that.
Which just isn't good enough, Councillor. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Councillor Flannery.
Look, on a similar note, there's it seems to have become a dumping spot for overburden and stormwater refuse. The intersection of Cunningar Road and Fairview Road. There's been a couple of piles of gravel. Well, when there was the debris went over the road and the culvert had to be dug out, it was all deposited at that site. Then there's been more dirt and debris deposited around tree roots, so I assume they'll die in the next few years, because when you've got a pile as high as this ceiling covering the fibrous roots, they normally don't live that long. But the problem is people add to it with concrete and other debris. So if that could be reviewed, or can we get a policy on where we actually dump our debris, please? That Harden streetscape continues to disappoint me. There are, I've got 12 or 13 photos I'll send through to the Director and General Manager. The garden beds around the medical centre, is that our obligation, or is that the medical centre's obligation? There's weeds. Why?
I understand they are our responsibility.
Okay, well, could they be looked at across the road from the medical centre, where the there's drop-off points for the buses going to, I can't think of the RTA buses, whatever they're called these days. On the south side of East Street, the barley grass is about that high. You can't walk up along it anymore. I've raised Heathfield Road with the Director, so that doesn't need raising again. What else did I have on the report? Look, I'll have to review the report if anyone's got other questions.
Have a spill while I have a go. And I can wait if there's any other councillor like to ask a question. Councillor Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question. I'm not sure if this is relevant to this or if it's the Director of Corporate Community, about flags, town flags in Boorowa. Is that something you can answer questions about?
I don't think it comes up.
No, it doesn't come under that.
Doesn't come under this yet.
You're completely out of whack. I'm sorry,
I thought that might be the case. Thank you.
I've got some questions to Councillor Douglas. Sorry. You moved the item in the first place. Yeah.
And everyone jumped in.
Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Director, Councillor Flannery has asked for a report for NHVR road permits. Has that come through yet?
No, not as yet. We are compiling some information to provide to the councillor and the relevant industry members shortly.
Do you have an update of when that would be?
And don't be frightened to speak up, Director, for us people.
Sorry.
Haven't got our hearing aids.
That should be in the next couple of weeks. We're aiming to do some consultation in October.
So we can go for October?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. So it's not gravel reshooting, it's maintenance graveling, and maintenance grading. So I look at the report. First question is, I don't think this, but is this a complete list of our gravel roads or just a list of roads that have got dates next to them in a program? First question.
Just a list of roads that are proposed to be graded this financial year.
I'll get to the point in a minute. So any road, gravel road that's not on that is in a lot of trouble. Because these go up to June 26. So if there's roads like Memagong Lane that's in a total mess now, and that's just one, and it's not listed, what I'll be saying to the residents that ring me from now on is to ring council, as well as me, or other councillors, so staff know which road may need some work before it's programmed. Even if if it's on this program, the program mightn't be till to June 26, or worse, it's not even on the list. So that means unless someone jumps up and down and comes to staff or council about it, nothing gets done. That's the first point. The second point is looking at the program for 25-26. There are 50 roads mentioned there that will have the maintenance grading program completed by September 25. Today is the 24th of September. I know this cuts off at the middle of September. There are 50 roads that are listed there that will be completed with gravel maintenance by the end of September 25. How far off that target are we, Director? I don't want to put you on the spot and don't say anything. You're not sure if you've taken on notice. I'm just making you aware that you're reporting to us there's 50 roads that will be maintained, grading will be done on in the next, and be completed in the next 6 days. And you've just told me on the last item, we're 2 operators down, we're 2 graders down. How far behind are we?
So Mr. Mayor, as noted in the report, the date that it's compiled at is about the 10th of September. So we have come a little way since then, and those dates for grading proposed are updated each month. So I can't guarantee, given the resourcing constraints that you mentioned, we've also noted that it is affected by weather conditions. I can't guarantee that all of those roads that you have counted that are stated to be done by September will be done, but that is the aim.
I'll go back to my point then with the budget. We put these documents out on public exhibition and bring them to council meetings and say, look, there we go, we're going to do all this by the end of September 25, and when the question's asked how far off we're getting to do it, these dates will be updated. So we come back in October and these dates go back another month. The public will hold no faith. If we're saying that we can do this, let's do it. If we can't do it, put our hands up and say we can't do it. I understand that this program gets interfered because of circumstances or storms on some of the other gravel roads that aren't on this that need some attention. I understand that. But I just think we are a long way off the mark at the moment, and I've been pretty quiet for 10 months in regard to these items, but the 12 months period is up. So we need to make sure, above all things, that we take care of what I always considered our core business, and that's roads and road safety, and gravel roads play a big part of that. That's enough of my speech on that, but I will be making a separate mention to the General Manager in regard to Memagong Lane. So, Councillor Flannery, did you have another question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's significant and numerous dangerous potholes now on Moppity Road. Could they be looked at? The main one I was wanting, and I'm not too sure if it's capital or maintenance, but I think it's maintenance, is Murrumbula Creek. When I notice there's equipment there, but I think we need a date when it's going to be finished and restored, and the public can be assured that it'll start looking good and be something that can be used. This money was given to council 8 years ago. It was the last project we finished of the $14 million, and there's a strong feeling in Harden that council are really not caring too much about Harden, and I really mean that. The sentiment is that Harden Main Street doesn't get looked after and nothing gets fixed.
Thank you. I'll just jump in there. And you're right, it's the last thing to get finished off, but it was delayed and delayed a number of times from starting point because the local committee couldn't actually decide just what they wanted to have done. So, to be fair, a little bit there, Councillor Flannery, it did have complications at the start. I'll hand that to Director to answer your question.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the fish ladder repairs have been completed in the creek there. We did have some delays in that because it required specialist contractors and some of the methods that they attempted didn't work. And we're currently spreading growing media across the disturbed areas of the site, which will be complete next week, and then spray seeding the site as soon as possible after that to allow for grass to re-establish.
Is the irrigation system working?
Yes, it's very recently been repaired.
My final question, why are we 2 graders down?
Primarily sickness and reallocation of a staff member through a recruitment process.
Thank you for that. Councillor Dodd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If a member of the community reports an issue through CRM, through the customer contact us system, then even if the road is not on here, it would be addressed. It's just that a whole section won't be done. Is that right?
Yeah, potentially. So in response to a customer request, we will tend to send an asset inspector out to the road. They'll provide a report, which I now have for Heathfield Road, which was completed today. It tells us in sections of the road what the safe driving speed is for that unsealed road, for example. The profile as compared with a perfect rounded profile, and any other issues on the road such as potholes, so that we can then reprioritise that road against the existing program.
Thank you. And just on that note, to any disgruntled people who might be out there that ring council or myself around the condition of their road, and no names mentioned, I had a phone call last week. I contacted council. Within 3 hours, there was a council officer inspecting that road, only to be abused. And the council officer came back. I contacted the person who rang me and said, I did everything I could and council did everything they could in their power. Council staff won't be attending your road while ever there's an issue with their safety. Was in a bad mood. I'm sorry. See you next time. So it's just a matter of a bit of courtesy from people. I know they get frustrated with the roads, but it's a bit of a one-off. But the response from council was about as quick as it could be, only to receive that kind of reception. So it's not very good. So I just made that point to point out that being a staff member sent out to those summer things isn't always that much fun. So, thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, can I just ask, Bonington Road has got July, August, September. No work has been done on that road for months, and there's quite significant potholes. And when you come off the bridge at the top, there's actually probably a 50 centimetre pothole at the top end near Kingsvale Road.
Thank you. I'll look into that one.
Okay, councillors, if there's no other questions on that, I'll put that report to receive and note the information provided. All those in favour? Unanimous. Councillors. Takes me over to 12:16, correspondence for information, media releases, recommendation is there in front of you, councillors. I'll get a mover and a seconder. Councillor Blackwell and Councillor Dodd. Questions in regard to any of those matters? If not, I'll put it. All those in favour? Oh, I seem to have missed a page somewhere. 12:17. Where is it?
Oh,
There.
460.
There we go. Thank you. And that is 12:17, Gaylong Limestone Mine VPA Steering Committee. Moved Councillor Flannery, thank you. Seconded Councillor Douglas, thank you. Talk to that or anything? If not, I'll put it. All those in favour? Thank you. Well, 18 is the action summary report. Recommendation, note the status of the action plan. Moved by Councillor Flannery, seconded by Councillor Blackwell. Thank you. Is there any questions to that report? If not, I'll put the report. All those in favour?
I was going to ask a question. I'll vote for it. I asked a question about heavy vehicle amalgamations into young, not bypasses, and a report was going to come back. That was about 4 months ago.
Through Mr. Mayor,
Yeah,
we
2 meetings ago, and you were working on it.
we're still working on it.
Still a work in progress?
Yep.
Thank you. Answered.
Okay, reminder.
I'll put the recommendation in. All those in favour? And I won't mention it now, but I will mention it later. Garibaldi Bridge. I should have mentioned it before I closed it off. I broke my own rule. No, I'm not breaking my own rule. No, I won't have it said. You're that far in debt, doesn't matter. Questions with notice. 13.1, questions with notice from Councillor Stamler. Recommendation is receive and note the questions and responses. I'm happy to move that.
I'll second it.
Second to Councillor Flannery. All those in favour?
I'd like to comment. I'd like to thank.
Passed, thank you. Next item.
I'd like to thank.
Next item is 14.
I'd like to thank staff for their responses.
Next item on the agenda is item 14, notice of motion, which we've dealt with the Sports Academy, and I thank my fellow councillors for their support in that matter. 14.2 is a similar. We've got a motion from Councillor Blackwell in regard to the Burrawa Christmas event sponsorship. It'll be moved by Councillor Blackwell. Do we have a seconder? Happy to look. Councillor Mackie.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move a deferral and so to come back to the next meeting, and so we can consider a similar program for Harden or add Harden to this. I think a deferral so we can look at what the options might be, or we just add Harden to the money.
There's a amendment being proposed by Councillor Flannery to the notice of motion. Is it accepted by the mover, who was Councillor Blackwell?
No, it's not.
Then we'll put the motion on hold. I'll second the amendment, and we will now debate the amendment. Oh, Councillor Langford.
I just want to ask a question in relation to that. It just mentions Burrawa. It's just for that Burrawa event. It's not for the Hilltops event that we had each year, which wasn't financed by council last year, but was the previous years. So it is just purely only for Burrawa.
Yes, this is a Burrawa Business Chamber co-sponsored event for Burrawa.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Flannery, you want to speak to you?
Yes, look, I'm just speak to the deferral because as Councillor Langford noted, there was a Hilltops wide program, which I think was very successful, and I think if we defer this, we could look at whether we could have a Hilltops wide program and allocate funding to it, not diminishing the need for it in Burrawa, but getting the whole community behind it.
Okay, so there's a speaker for the amendment. Does anyone like to speak against the amendment?
So in the deferral for staff to bring back what the previous program was and what some options are for us to
we better get some wording before we go too much further on exactly what the amendment is going to be. So everyone's now we're in trouble. He's on the typewriter.
I believe Councillor Foreman was the instigator and the motivator for that previous year's function, and not being here tonight, she would have more information on that. So hopefully when it comes back, we'll have a little bit more information.
We had some information about it when it fell through, and the now Deputy Mayor and Mayor at the time offered to cover that shortfall, but we were thanked for our offer, but it was cancelled.
Through Mr. Mayor, does that cover it, Councillor Flannery?
including funding provided last last time? Or what, the cost allocation. That'll be sufficient. Thank you.
Okay, so Councillor Flannery spoke for his amendment. Someone speak against the amendment.
Yeah, I would like to speak against the amendment, Mr. Mayor. For a number of reasons. This is an event that the Borough Business Chamber has come to me about sponsoring. They would like to get the advertising started relatively quickly before the next October council meeting. Any delay to that delays the amount of advertising they're able to spread. And they, again, yes, there are other Hilltops events that may be going on for Christmas. They've not put together a proposal. Borough has put together and they've organised and they've got a very detailed plan here. I don't think it's fair to punish the people of Borough for getting themselves together and organising and putting this before us. Councillor Flannery is welcome to bring a motion at the next meeting if he wants to fund for Hard and Young. This is before us now. I think we should vote on this now, and if we want to come back to the other towns later, we are more than welcome to, and I would support funding for the other towns later, but this is before us now, and I think we should stick with this as it is, and not defer and fund this now, and we can fund the rest of it later. There's nothing stopping us doing that, whereas the information is here, all the info, everything we would need to know about the program is before us. We can fund that, and then in a future meeting, fund later work. I don't see why there's a need to delay.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else like to speak for the amendment? I will. Councillor Blackwell approached me and mentioned about this coming to council, and I thought, okay, that's fine. But since then, I had councillors ring me with similar questions to the amendment that Councillor Flannery's moved. So maybe it might be a better idea if we have a bit of a look at what happens. The point about going back to the October meeting, my understanding this is for the Christmas events, which we all know is the 25th of December. Well, if it came back in the fourth week in October, you've got November and December, you've got 8 weeks full of advertising to get out to the community. So I don't see the lag back a month being an issue with the advertisement. I don't know if I read anywhere where it would start. There's costings there, but actually, look at it. It's not due to start till the 10th of November. According to this report, I think if I read that right, start date.
There is a second sheet not held on here, but
not on it.
No,
Well,
there's two Excel. I can't speak to the other Excel spreadsheet.
Thank you, Councillor. Yep. So I can't speak to that one. I can only speak to this one too. So I don't see there's a problem with the lag in relation to achieving the end result by advertising it. The other point that I would make is in regard to the Borough Business Chamber and the wider community in Borough who are now able to avail themselves to, and I'll be corrected, $270-something thousand from wind farm that are in the Borough area, which the funding that is contributed to council is to be spent in the Borough community. So I would encourage all those great volunteer charitable groups that need funding to make avail themselves to the opening dates and the cut-off dates of all those funds when that money becomes available. That's a lot of money. And good luck to the area. You've got to have the sufferance of the wind turbines there. And it's only fair that the money, the bribe money, I call it, to communities, to have them there, are available to the Borough community. And good luck to them. So I just think they need to make sure that they avail themselves to the dates so they can seek some funding from those funds. Having said that, I'm happy to support a deferral, at which time I've no doubt I'll be happy to support the recommending of these funds to that cause that the council will put forward at that time. That's enough from me. Anyone else like to speak for it, against it? If not, I'll give Councillor Flannery right a reply on the amendment.
Look, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Pretty much as you said, I think I acknowledge that Borough Chamber brought it forward, and I don't believe that deferring it diminishes in any way. I just think it would be good to have an approach that's supporting the whole Hilltops, and it may be that Borough get a bit of extra money, it may not. I'd just like to have an approach that council's behind for all the towns.
Thank you, councillor. On that note, I'm putting to councillors now the amendment that Councillor Flannery moved. All those in favour of the amendment? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those against? 3. The amendment is carried. The matter will be dealt with the additional report back to council in October. And the sentiment, I'm sure, around the room is I don't see any issues at all with the request at the time when it comes back. Thank you. We'll move over to item 14.3.
Mr. Mayor, sorry,
Yep.
we only voted on the amendment there. We didn't vote on the full motion.
The amendment becomes the motion, and the motion is that we defer the matter. Sorry.
Yeah, but
To,
I don't believe we voted on that on the second part.
I'm just trying to correct that, Councillor Blackwell. I know I was picked up on this once before, and if you give me 2 seconds, I'll correct that for you, Councillor Blackwell. The amendment now becomes the motion. So the motion is that council defer the matter to have a report be brought back to council to consider a Hilltops-wide approach to funding Christmas events, including previous funding allocations. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Those against? Motion is carried. Thank you. And thank you, Councillor Blackwell, for once again picking me up on that, because I had moved over. So I appreciate that. Item 14.3 is another motion from Councillor Blackwell, promoting social cohesion. Councillor Blackwell, I presume you're moving your motion?
Yes.
Need a seconder? Councillor Mackie. Councillor Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a long list of things to say here, and I'll definitely try and keep it under the 5 minutes that we have.
Will, yep.
I could make a comment there, but I won't. In the Hilltops over the last several months, we've seen, I think what I have seen, I won't speak for others, I have seen an increasing amount of hate and violence and intimidation directed at various members of our communities on the basis of the various characteristics that I put in the motion. It's been on Facebook. There's been comments, for example, and I'll read some of these out, that the mosque is trying to, quote, subvert our towns, that Islam is, quote, a religion of hate and control. I've read posts and seen posts.
Councillor, I would caution you with repeating some of those things on social media that you're alluring to now. I'm sure you can put your case forward without using those.
Of course, and I'm not saying I endorse these comments. I'm merely trying to give colleagues a sense of what I'm seeing.
I understand that. I'm just...
Okay, I will...
Thank you.
I will speak more generally. There are other comments that certain groups of people are unwelcome in our communities or not proper to be operating businesses, and other comments along those lines that, again, I won't repeat because of your guidance, Mr. Mayor. Even as an Indigenous person on this council, speaking on my own culture and issues as a councillor, I often get hate mail directed personally to me. And there is a large segment of the community, I think, that hold a view that some are unwelcome in the Hilltops, and these comments should be condemned by us as community leaders. The diverse communities that make up our towns is what makes us a strong community, whether that is different faiths, nationalities, ethnicities, genders, or any other background. Diversity is a strength for our communities and our council. This year's 75th Annual Cherry Festival is one which will be showcasing some of this multiculturalism. The Off the Beaten Track events also bring attention to the various diversity we have in the community. We have a sister city relationships with Lanzhou in China and Friendship City with Canterbury Bankstown in Sydney, one of the most diverse multicultural communities in the state and the country. And the mosque, once completed, will be one of the largest mosques outside of capital city. Clearly, as a council, our actions in the past show that we value and respect these diverse communities, and I think we should wish them to be free of hatred and intimidation against them here. And I think as a council, we have a responsibility as community leaders to support everyone in the community, no matter their background. We have a responsibility to show leadership in the face of the growing hatred and division that we're seeing. and we need to make it clear that such comments and views are not welcome here. On the motion itself, we're not voting on anything here other than the text that is before us. We're not voting on anything you may disagree with me personally about, or the arguments you wish I was making instead. This is not a motion about any individual councillor or any individual person. It is about us showing community leadership. I'm aware most of us, all of us, model that in our own lives in the community. But this is about us as a council showing direction and showing leadership. If there's anything in this text you find objectionable, please, by all means, bring that up and suggest an alternative or vote against the motion. But I would urge you to consider it and what kind of message we send to the community if we do vote for this, as opposed to voting against it. Thank you very much. I'm sure I'll have a lot to say in the right of reply. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blackwell. Anyone speak against it? No. I'll put the motion. All those in favour of the motion, raise your hand. Those against? That motion is lost. Next item. I'd like to have a mover and a second to move us into confidential, please. Moved. Councillor Langford, seconded. Councillor Douglas, thank you very much. Staff and to remove. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whilst in confidential, Council resolved at 15.2-25/296 Hilltops Council Brewer Sports Advisory Group. The Council receive and note the report and it accept the nominations to the Hilltops Brewer Sports Advisory Group, and that Councillor Blackwell be the nominated councillor for that group. At Report 15.3-25/297 Tender Exemption for Energy Supply Contracts. Council resolved to receive and note the report. B, approve an open tender exemption in accordance with Section 55, Subsection 3N of the Local Government Act 1993, that due to extenuating circumstances, a satisfactory result would not be achieved by inviting tenders for electricity supply contracts. C, delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all necessary documents associated with electricity supply contracts. And D, bring a detailed report back to Council regarding the function and operation of said contract. At 15.4-25/298, award of contract RFT 35, Smart Water Meter and Telemetry Upgrade. Council resolved to receive and note the report on RFT 35, Smart Water Meter and Telemetry Upgrade. And B, award the contract RFT 35, Smart Water Meter and Telemetry Upgrade to the successful tenderer based upon the said value. And C, delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all necessary documentation associated with awarding this contract and expend funds as required within current budgets. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Thank you, councillors. And I'll declare our meeting closed at 7:15. Thank you, one and all.